Who controls SWIFT, the system that can isolate a country? Imagine waking up and discovering that the money in your bank account is still there, but your country can no longer use the main international payment networks. You can see your balance. You can withdraw cash. You can make payments at home. But buying oil, medicine, food, or machinery from abroad has suddenly become much harder. Your money has not disappeared. Its ability to move across borders has been restricted. This is not a theoretical scenario. Iran experienced it. Some Russian banks faced similar restrictions. Now China, Russia, and several other countries are building alternative systems to reduce the risk of facing the same pressure in the future. This conflict is not fought with tanks or aircraft. It is fought through banks, payment networks, reserve currencies, computer systems, and financial messages. At the center of this system is SWIFT. But what exactly is SWIFT? And who really controls the movement of the world's money? In the early 1970s, international banking was expanding rapidly, but banks still communicated through telex machines, telephone calls, and incompatible message formats. Cross-border payments were slow, expensive, and vulnerable to mistakes. To solve this problem, a financial cooperative was established in Belgium in 1973. Its full name is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. It is known as SWIFT. SWIFT does not move or store money. It allows banks to send secure, standardized financial messages. You can think of it as a common language used by the global banking system. When someone sends money from Turkey to Japan, the money does not travel through SWIFT itself. The banks exchange messages that identify the sender, the recipient, the amount, and the accounts involved. SWIFT is not directly controlled by the United States. It is governed under Belgian law. It also does not independently decide which countries should face sanctions. But because SWIFT is deeply connected to international banking, governments can use access to the network as part of a wider sanctions policy. In 2012, certain Iranian banks were disconnected from SWIFT under European Union sanctions. That decision showed the world that a financial communication network could become extremely important during a political conflict. A bank removed from SWIFT does not lose all of its money. But communicating with foreign banks becomes slower, more expensive, and less reliable. Payments may be delayed. Intermediary banks may refuse to participate. Companies may avoid transactions because the risk is too high. In global trade, losing speed and trust can be almost as damaging as losing access to money itself. The power of this system became even clearer in 2022. After Russia launched its large-scale invasion of Ukraine, Western countries imposed new financial sanctions. Certain Russian banks were removed from SWIFT. A significant part of the Russian central bank's foreign reserves was also frozen through separate legal decisions. These measures are often confused, but they are not the same. Removing SWIFT access makes international payment communication more difficult. Freezing reserves limits access to assets held in foreign financial institutions. When both measures are used together, the economic pressure becomes much stronger. Russia was not completely removed from global finance. Not every Russian bank was disconnected from SWIFT. Some payment channels, especially those connected to energy trade, continued to operate, but the message was clear. A country involved in a serious conflict with Western governments could lose access to important parts of the global financial system. This was closely watched in Beijing, New Delhi, Riyadh, Tehran, and many other capitals. Governments began asking the same question: Could the financial measures used against Russia one day be used against us? To understand why these sanctions are so powerful, we must understand the role of the United States dollar. In 1944, representatives from 44 countries met at Bretton Woods. They created a new international monetary system. The dollar was linked to gold, and other currencies were linked to the dollar. This placed the United States at the center of the post-war financial system. In 1971, President Richard Nixon ended the dollar's direct convertibility into gold. But the dollar remained dominant. The American economy was large. American financial markets were deep and liquid. United States government bonds were widely trusted, and a large share of global trade was already priced in dollars. During the 1970s, stronger security and financial ties between the United States and Saudi Arabia also increased the use of dollars in the oil trade. Oil exporting countries earned dollars and invested much of that money in American banks, government bonds, and other financial assets. This became known as the petrodollar system. But the idea that one secret agreement forced all oil trade into dollars is too simple. The dollar was already the main international currency. Oil trading strengthened a system that was already powerful. Because many international dollar payments connect with American banks, the United States can influence transactions far beyond its own borders. SWIFT is not an American system, but SWIFT, the dollar, American banks, sanctions law, and Western financial institutions form one connected network. The power comes from the network, not from one single institution. Countries that want to reduce their dependence on this network cannot simply abandon the dollar overnight. The dollar is supported by the world's largest financial markets. Many companies borrow in dollars. Oil, natural gas, metals, and other products are priced in dollars. Central banks hold large amounts of dollar assets. International banks have spent decades building systems around dollar transactions. Creating a new payment network is therefore much easier than creating a new global currency. Even so, several countries are building alternatives. After 2014, Russia developed its own financial messaging system, known as SPFS. China created CIPS to support cross-border payments in renminbi. CIPS is often described as a direct rival to SWIFT, but the two systems are not identical. SWIFT mainly provides secure financial messaging. CIPS also supports clearing and settlement for renminbi payments. Some institutions connected to CIPS still use SWIFT standards or connections, so CIPS has not replaced SWIFT. But it gives China and its trading partners another route for moving money. BRICS countries are also trying to use local currencies more often in trade. China has expanded the use of the renminbi with some partners. Russia has reduced the role of the dollar and the euro in parts of its foreign trade. India, the United Arab Emirates, Brazil, and other countries have explored local currency settlements. But these agreements do not mean that the dollar is disappearing. A global currency needs more than trade deals. Investors must trust it. Capital must be able to move freely. Large and liquid bond markets must exist. The legal system must be predictable. Despite its weaknesses, the dollar still offers more of these advantages than most competing currencies. Its share of global reserves has declined over time, but it remains the leading reserve currency. The world is not abandoning the dollar. Some countries are simply preparing alternatives so they are not completely dependent on it. The next stage of this competition may involve central bank digital currencies. A central bank digital currency is not a private cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. It is a digital form of national money issued by a central bank. China is already testing the digital yuan. A more important change could come if different central bank digital currencies can operate on one shared platform. The mBridge project is testing this idea. It is designed to help participating central banks and commercial banks make cross-border payments through a shared digital system. Traditional international payments may pass through several intermediary banks. Each bank checks the transaction, charges a fee, and adds time. On a shared digital platform, payment and settlement could happen more quickly and with fewer intermediaries. In 2024, mBridge reached the minimum viable product stage. That does not mean it is already used across the world. It means the system had advanced enough to be tested in practical transactions. Digital payment systems could make international transfers faster and cheaper, but they could also create new risks. Who will be able to see the transaction data? Where will that information be stored? Could a government block access to digital money instantly? Will different national systems work together? Or will the world divide into separate financial networks? In the traditional system, power is shared among banks, markets, payment networks, regulators, and governments. In a digital system, power may also belong to the institutions that write the software and define the technical standards. Digital money may move faster. It may also be easier to track, control, and program. For this reason, the competition over digital money is not simply a contest between the dollar and the renminbi. It is a contest over who will define the rules of international finance in the future. Does this mean the dollar will soon lose its global position? No. The dollar still represents the largest share of central bank reserves. American financial markets remain larger and more liquid than most competing markets. SWIFT remains one of the main communication systems in international banking. CIPS, SPFS, local currency agreements, and digital currency projects are not yet large enough to replace the entire dollar-centered system. But the way governments think about financial infrastructure has changed. In the past, many countries expected global payment systems to remain mostly separate from political conflicts. Today, major economies know that access can be restricted. Their immediate goal is not to destroy the dollar. Their goal is to create additional payment routes that can be used when the main system becomes unavailable. The world may be moving from one dominant financial system towards several competing regional and digital networks. On one side are the dollar, SWIFT, and Western financial institutions. On the other side are renminbi payments, regional networks, local currency agreements, and central bank digital currencies. The name of the money in your wallet may not change, but the way it moves between countries may change completely. No single country, bank, or organization controls all of the world's money. The greatest influence belongs to the governments and institutions that manage the networks through which international money moves. Now, more countries are trying to build alternatives to those networks. Will these alternatives give countries greater economic independence, or will they divide the global economy into separate financial blocs? Share your opinion in the comments, subscribe to Past, Present, Truth, and we will see you in the next documentary.